They search for Solomon's mines in Africa. They're looking in the wrong hemisphere. The biblical account is clear. Solomon's wealth came from Ophir, brought by Hiram's fleet from Ezion-Geber. For centuries, archaeologists chased that gold to Zimbabwe, to Arabia, to India. They found ancient mines, yes, but none with the scale described. Gold, algum wood, and precious stones, in quantities that made silver as common as stones in Jerusalem. The clue wasn't in the ground, it was in the water. In the Vatican Library's Arabic manuscript collection, catalogued as Medieval Merchant's Guide to Monsoon Trade, I found a 10th century copy of a much older text. The margin held a note in Judeo-Arabic. The wise king's secret. His ships returned not once, but twice each voyage. The first cargo was for show. The second, heavier with true Ophir gold, went to the island of the Burning Heart, where the sea itself boils. The map is written in stars that never touch water. Solomon's double cargo system, a decoy fleet, island of the Burning Heart, could only mean volcanic activity. And stars that never touch water, circumpolar stars, visible year-round from the tropics. But where, the ancient Phoenician sailing manual, the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, mentions an island called Meneutheus, with hot springs that steam day and night. Most scholars identify it as Zanzibar or Madagascar. But there's another candidate, Socotra, not for its frankincense, but for its volcanic past. While not active now, Socotra has extensive geothermal vents and hot springs on its northern coast. And more importantly, it sits directly on the ancient monsoon sailing route between the Red Sea and India. The hunt for Solomon's $110 million true Ophir gold had begun with a margin note about a double cross. Clue 1. The stars that never touch water. Ancient Phoenician navigation used Ursa Minor for true north, but only above latitude 30 degree. South of that, they used Canopus and other southern stars. Socotra is at 12 Trangren, where both systems fail, except for one method, star transit timings. A 9th century Arab astronomer's text in the British Museum described how pre-Islamic Yemeni sailors would time how long specific stars took to cross between two mountain peaks. I found a reference to the twin peaks of Socotra being used as a natural observatory. On Socotra's central plateau, there are indeed two distinctive granite peaks visible from the sea, Jabal Hawari and Jabal Ma'ala. Using archaeoastronomy software, I calculated which stars would have transited directly between them in 950 BC. One star alignment stood out. Alpha Centauri and Beta Centauri aligning perfectly at the autumn equinox, exactly when the monsoon winds reversed for the return voyage to Ezion-Geber. That alignment pointed like an arrow to a specific bay on the northern coast, Hadibo Bay. But where in the bay? Where the sea itself boils, hydrothermal vents. Clue 2. The boiling sea. Modern Socotra has no active volcanism, but its northern coast has submarine hot springs that create visible steam plumes at low tide. Local fishermen have legends of smoking water in certain coves. I chartered a boat with thermal imaging equipment. Scanning Hadibo Bay at dawn, when air-sea temperature difference is greatest, we found it. A thermal anomaly in a secluded cove, 20 meters offshore, in just 5 meters of water. The seabed there was 12 degrees warmer than surrounding areas. Scuba diving revealed the source, a fissure in the seabed emitting warm water. And around it, something man-made, a circular stone structure about 10 meters across, partially buried in coral growth. Not a natural formation, the stones were cut with Phoenician-style mason's marks. This was a submarine storage silo. But how to access it? The stones were massive, each weighing tons. The clue said, the map is written in stars. Perhaps the locking mechanism was astronomical. Clue 3. The double cargo key. Back in Jerusalem, I re-examined the only known artifact that might be from Ophir. The Ophir stone inscription found at Tel Kasil near modern Tel Aviv. It reads simply, Gold of Ophir for Beth Horon, 30 shekels. But under ultraviolet light, something else appeared, faint etchings along the edges, not Hebrew. Proto-Sinaitic script. the ancestor of the alphabet used by Canaanite miners in the Sinai centuries before Solomon. It took months to decipher, but it resolved into a tidal calendar and a star phase diagram. The key: the silo could only be opened during a specific tidal low that occurred when the Pleiades were at zenith at midnight. We returned to Socotra and waited for the alignment. On the appointed night, with the tide at its absolute lowest, the cove became a shallow pool, and there it was. A stone cap at the center of the circle, now exposed, with 7 depressions arranged like the Pleiades. But we needed a key. Remembering the double cargo, the stone had mentioned 30 shekels. Not a weight, but a measure. The shekel wasn't just currency, it was a standard weight, and Solomon famously standardized them. I had brought replicas of known First Temple period shekel weights. The 7th depression was larger. I tried a 30 shekel weight, about 340 grams. It fit perfectly. As I placed it, the stone shuddered. With the grinding sound of stone on stone that hadn't been heard in 3 millennia, the cap rotated and sank, revealing a dark, water-filled shaft. Clue 4. The submarine silo. We dove immediately. The tide would return in hours. The shaft descended through the seabed into a dry chamber. The Phoenician engineers had used an airlock system of inverted stone bells that trapped air as water rose. The chamber took my breath away. Not chests or piles. Gold ingots stacked like firewood, each stamped with Phoenician letters, MLK for the king. But this wasn't Egyptian or Mesopotamian gold. Spectrographic analysis later would show it had unique tin and tungsten impurities, matching only one place. Ancient gold mines in Karnataka, India. This was Indian gold, brought back on the monsoon winds. And there was more. Gold dust in sealed ceramic jars, still dry. Gold foil sheets for temple decoration. Gold wire for jewelry making. And most telling, gold model ships, votive offerings for safe passage. But the centerpiece explained everything. A solid gold model of the temple's Holy of Holies, about the size of a shoebox. Not Jewish craftsmanship, Phoenician. This was Hiram of Tyre's tribute, his craftsman's masterpiece. And inside it, a clay tablet in Phoenician. For Solomon, wisest of kings, from Hiram, your brother in trade, the gold of Ophir is yours. The secret of its source remains mine. Let this temple of gold remind you, wisdom built Jerusalem, but ships built its wealth. This was no mere treasury. This was a joint venture holding. Solomon provided the political protection, Hiram provided the ships and mining contacts in India. The gold here was the profit share, stored offshore, literally, to avoid temple taxes, political intrigue, or simply to have liquid assets outside the kingdom. The monsoon fortune. The Yemeni and Indian authorities, Socotra is disputed territory, jointly managed the extraction. The engineering challenge was immense, stabilizing the chamber, preventing saltwater intrusion, carefully removing 3,000-year-old gold from a submarine environment. The valuation had to account for historical revelation. This proved Bronze Age India-Mediterranean trade at a scale never imagined. Gold ingots, 400 plus. Approximately 2.5 metric tons of high-purity Indian gold. $150 million at bullion value. Gold dust and special items, another 500 key, $30 million. Temple model and artistic value, priceless, but insured for $30 million. But here's the accounting truth. Solomon and Hiram were running a 40% profit margin after expenses. This $110 million, our conservative valuation, was just one season's surplus, stored offshore. The scale of their operation dwarfed anything in the ancient world. The gold today is split between the National Museum of Yemen, in Sana'a, and a special exhibition in Jerusalem, though the temple model resides in the Israel Museum, a silent testament to history's first documented multinational corporation. For me, the discovery rewrote economic history. Solomon wasn't just wise, he was the world's first venture capitalist. Ophir wasn't a place. It was a trade route, a brand, and a financial instrument. The gold wasn't mined. It was arbitraged. Bought cheap in India, sold dear in the Mediterranean, with the surplus hidden in a volcanic island silo. The real treasure wasn't the gold. It was the understanding that globalization didn't start with Columbus or even with Rome. It started with a Phoenician fleet and a Hebrew king who understood that true wealth isn't in the ground, but in the distance between markets. And they buried that truth in a submarine vault, where it waited for us to discover that the first gold rush wasn't a rush at all. It was a calculated sail on the monsoon winds.